My microphone's on line 3. So this one here. And I can't increase it any, okay. I thought you froze for a second.
Because
No.
I can hear just about everything you're doing.
You can hear everything I'm doing?
Yeah, I hear you picking. I heard you pick the soda up. I heard you say. I was, yeah. Oh, what the fuck? This. Confusing.
Yeah, like you should. Like I'm not pushing any buttons. You should still be able to hear me.
Okay, that what you just said. I heard it through the chat, but I didn't hear it in mumble.
Yeah, no, that's right, because my microphone's always open, because I have no way to do push-to-talk on the microphone itself. So yeah, everything I say will be streamed.
Okay.
Which should be fun, because I sometimes say random shit for no reason.
But can you boost me? It is a little quiet.
Can I boost you? Let's see if I can boost you.
That or I'll just have to increase my mic speed thingamabob on this side.
Alright, should be louder now.
Test, 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 test. I think that's good enough for now. Anyway, if I have to, I'll just put the mic closer to my mouth.
Yeah, if anything, just put your mic closer to your mouth. Your lips didn't move when you were doing your test.
No.
Hey, Glandic!
Are you guys starting?
We're about to. I'm just setting up the stream and everything. Did you have a picture of yourself or of your character or anything like that? Just so I can put something up.
If you want to put something, I mean, I guess you can use the WoW character. Well,
Your WoW character's fine, I don't care.
I almost wanted to, for a picture like that, I'd almost rather use a Star Wars character.
Sure.
Test, test, test. Is this louder?
He's just testing the audio on the stream to make sure it's okay.
No, that's fine. Is there a Star Wars Armory type thing website I can pick from?
No. Do you have an old screenshot of him?
No.
Boo.
Okay, so actually find the trooper guy from all the things and just make that his character, his thing in the game, in the stream.
What trooper guy?
The like big trooper guy that's in all the promos for the Star Wars movies or things. Kurt knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the guy with the big scars inside of his face.
Yeah, that dude. There was a good 10-second delay or so on the stream, but
Yeah, that's not too bad. Are you logged in to Twitch?
me?
Yeah.
I'm not logged into Twitch, no.
Well, I'm just going to do this for Glandic.
For what? What now?
You'll see.
I'm logged in now.
Fuck off. Sucks. I did all this stuff. I did all this setting up before, and it didn't save, so I have to do it all again. And I'll also record the audio on this just in case the stream turns out to be a little bit glitchy or something. And I'll just do a stand like what we usually do. Hope you like your picture, Glandict.
Oh, of course. Why wouldn't I? What is it?
It'll be up in a second. Oh, junk shot of Altiar, nice. Alright, here I'll send you the link to the stream so you can see it. Let's not put that there. And then we'll start discussing.
Just the question mark?
That's all I got.
I love it.
So yeah, the topics I believe for today we're going to be. Is Altiar on the phone? Yeah, he's on the phone. PvP, the campaigns, keep sieging. The objectives to claim the keep. We want to do reputations. We want to do targeting. I think that was it, right?
I thought you wanted to do PvP. Did you do PvP much?
Yeah, the PvP, the campaigns, the siege keep, sieging, reputation and targeting. So we'll start off with the PvP, going to the PvP, like we'll talk about the zone, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, we'll talk about the zone, how it's going to handle having 1 million people on the mega server. That's where campaigns come in. Then from campaigns we'll go to like how the siege warfare is going to work. Like essentially, most of our conversations kind of lead off of our topics, but we always somehow meld the topics together.
Sure, whatever.
Let's get her done.
All right. So yeah, let's talk about PvP. Let's talk about the PvP specific zone. What do you guys think of having the 3 sections to ESO and then having 1 dedicated PvP zone?
Well, with it being 1 mega server, right, you can't designate it to being a PvE-based server or a PvP-based server like you would in other MMOs. So having it set up like that, I find it interesting, and I think it'll work good and help balancing those who want to PvP and those who don't want to PvP. Sort of like other games. So if you want to PvP, you go to the central zone. If not, you don't go to that zone. So that'll, while it takes away from the aspect of I want to go around and camp people in their own neighborhood, if you really want to PvP, you'll just go to that area and kill shit.
I think it has the best chance of appealing both worlds. But also with that being said, it has the best chance of not keeping people, at least PvPers specifically, happy. PvEers will love it to death, but PvPers, they'll have their open world PvP option, obviously, with Citadel, but is that going to be enough, or are they going to miss the random PvP battles that you get in true open world PvP while leveling? And I think it'll be interesting to see how much people miss that specifically.
Yeah, like I think that's going to be a very interesting thing. Is every MMO previously, except for again Dark Age of Camelot, has always had dedicated PvP servers, PvE servers, role-playing servers. Whereas they're in ESO, they're going to do the mega servers. So I think you hit the nail on the head saying I think a lot of people are going to be hurt not being able to just go out and gank whoever they want. They actually have to go to the specific zone to do it.
Well, the other thing, too, is do we know if those specific zones, like if you do decide, you know what, I want to go kill people in random times, not in PvP, is it going to be like friendly territory is in other MMOs? If you go into another team zone, do you have to be attacked first to be able to attack back? Do we know how that's going to work?
From the articles I've read so far, they're going to, again, do the exact same thing that Dark Age Camelot did. You have your 3 dedicated sections. You have your Ebon Pack. You have your Aldemari. Nobody can interrupt those factions unless you're part of the faction. So I can't go over to the Ebon Pack, vice versa, unless I'm in the PvP zone, and then everybody can converge in that one spot.
Well, see, that works great for your PvEers, but the PvPers who like to go ganking and stuff like that, that really doesn't appeal to them because they have to go to this PvP area, which only really your higher level characters are going to go. So the farming tunes just because you're bored and have nothing else better to do really isn't going to happen. But at the same time, that takes away from the sitting there for 2 hours getting beat to death by somebody, and you can actually go ahead and quest. So I'm torn both ways with that because I really enjoyed when we were bored going to different zones and just demolishing lower tunes. But we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a borderline Care Bear per se when it comes to leveling. When I want to level, I just want to level. I want to get it done. If I want to PvP, I go PvP. So this system will really work with my gameplay style. But I do think, like you're saying, there's going to be a lot of people that upset it. But then again, I mean, in my opinion, is that truly PvPing if you just, like, jump up behind somebody while they're fighting another mob? I mean, I prefer just straight up one-on-one, player versus player, or in some kind of organized scenario. So I like it, but I doubt everyone will.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I fully, when it comes to PvP, I fully believe that it should be 1 versus 1 and no jumping up behind them. But, I mean, every once in a while when you're bored, just ganking somebody, it's always fun. I mean, it was done to you. You want to turn around and do it to somebody else, right? So, I mean, there's that aspect. With that taken out of the game, that only leaves real PvP in that one PvP zone. But are they going to have the option for us to, let's say, each section has its own faction, or is it going to give us an option to take over, say, the Ebon Pack's castle or whatever the hell is going to be there and whatnot, like you can in Orgrimmar or Stormwind?
I don't think anything like that's going to be incorporated in the game. Yeah, like it's hard to say because from everything I've read, your faction's your factions. Nobody can come into your faction unless you're part of that faction. And Glenn actually kind of hit the nail on the head when he said he wants to see, when he PvPs, he wants to see 1v1s, 2v2s. With ESO being more open world, being more specifically to one zone, do you think a lot of people are, again, going to be hurt because they can't go into those structured battles anymore that World of Warcraft introduced, tournament style kind of thing, right?
Well, I think I would not be surprised to see something like pop up in the future. I mean, granted, it's become a standard now, and well, not a standard, but it's more popular now. But World of Warcraft did not have actual structured, straight 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2, the 3 versus 3, and the 5 versus 5 for quite a while. I think that's something that will come, because I think that's something that, especially with Elder Scrolls' new gameplay style for MMOs, is going to be a good mix for straight structured combat like that.
Like with Cyrodiil, with that being the specific PvP zone, how do you guys feel about going into a dedicated PvP zone and actually having open dungeons, having open quests, where you're going to be going out to accomplish something, either storyline or personal related, like if you just want to go out and go farm something, and knowing that you're going out there, chances are you're going to get run up into a structured group, and they're just going to face roll you. What do you guys think about that? Like, do you think that's going to be an issue?
I don't.
Yeah, like Glenn said, I don't. Like, I always played on PvP servers regardless of what game it was. I always enjoyed that chance that you can run into that group of the other faction that kill you, or vice versa. So having storyline take place in an open PvP zone, whether it's an open dungeon or something like that, I find interesting. Me personally, I think it's fun that every once in a while, if there's a group attacking a boss and you have the option to kill them, it's when you're in that type of mood, it's kind of fun to watch them struggle and force them to go at it 5 or 6 times before they actually kill it, because you just keep killing them. So I'm all for it. I enjoy that part of the mixture of the PvP and PvE aspect of games.
And I personally think it's going to just be not much different than your standard PvP servers of your current MMOs. You're doing a quest, you run into people, they kill you, and you move on. I don't think a lot of that's going to be different. And even when you compare it to current MMOs have PvP areas that have dailies, that have quest lines, and you just know that's going to come. You just have to know. You can't go in there expecting to be by yourself and finish those. You're in the PvP area. If you don't want to do it, then just skip that part of the game.
All right. So let's kind of stick with the Cyrodiil. What are your guys' thoughts of Cyrodiil? Thoughts of how they're going to introduce the Emperor, introduce the keep sieging and stuff like that? What do you guys think of that?
It's going to be big.
Neither of you guys really are big on PvP. Either am I. I mean, World of Warcraft or SOTOR or any other games I played minus Dark Age. Did I ever do any real PvP? I mean, I had a rogue in WoW where I had really a lot of fun going around and just ganking people. But that, again, like we said, it's not real PvP. It's not that structured origins. So with not being a PvP person, do you guys foresee going in there and actually helping take these keeps and try and help your faction?
I do.
Yeah, I do, because, I don't know, see, in WoW, PvP really didn't have an effect on the world. Okay, you killed the leader of Orgrimmar, nothing really happened. They didn't lose that city for a set amount of time or something like that. I think they are going to integrate something like that into Tesso, kind of like how World vs. World was in Guild Wars. Your faction or world gained benefits for you interacting in PvP and helping take a castle or take something. So if that's how it's going to play out, yeah, I'm not that big of a PvPer, but to make my day easier, make it more fun for my faction and easier for us to go around and do what we need to do, yeah, I'm going to participate in that PvP, without a doubt.
And what about you, Glenn? You foresee yourself participating in the PvP, trying to claim keeps for your faction?
I do. That is my preferred style of PvP. Group PvP. I mean, not so structured as arena style, but at least goals. You know, you're not just running up behind someone questing. That is my preferred style of PvP, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun the way it's building. Cyrodiil is a huge place. I mean, you're talking PvP on scales of planet side. I mean, from what it seems, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be old school Altaric Valley, lasting days. You start an AV, come back 2 days later, and it's still same AV still going on.
I remember those days. Those days were very annoying. Very annoying.
I loved that. I loved old AV. I loved the never ending. I loved the actual hard struggle. I mean, the comparison to how it's changed is bad, but I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the quick little battles that are only meant to last 10, 15 minutes. No, I mean, it's war. I mean, war isn't over in a day. It takes a while, and I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, well, I agree with Lana 100%. If in Tesso, if we're going to take a keep and own it, and then have to build up our all our stuff properly, you have to feel like you earned it. Going in, demolishing everything in 10, 20 minutes just doesn't make you feel like you accomplished anything. If it takes you a couple hours or takes your faction a day or two to actually accomplish taking the keep and all the other stuff that goes along with it, it gives you more sense of accomplishment and makes you feel like you need to defend it more and be on the ready that if someone comes to attack it, you're going to defend it because it took you 2 days to get that rather than 10 minutes if someone took it, and then it's like, oh, well, I can just go back 20 minutes and get it back anyway, so what's the big deal?
So on the topic of taking keeps and claiming ownership and basically just having that pride that you guys dedicated the time and did that, took this keep. In ESO, from everything I've read, the way keep sieges, keeps warfare is going to be, is you're going to have your trebuchets, you're going to have your rams, you're going to have your ballistas. What do you guys think of that? Like, I know Guild Wars 2 introduced another genre of that, and I think the only game prior to Guild Wars 2 was Dark Age of Camelot that did the siege warfare, did the keep taking and claiming, and having that massive area strictly for PvP. So what do you guys think of the siege warfare?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say just Guild Wars 2. I mean, I know it's not exactly, but, I mean, Wintergrasp did hint at that a little bit. I mean, if you're talking that kind of style of taking the keep. I mean, it was a timed thing, and it was every so often, so that was very different. But I think it's going to add a lot of nice mix into the way you think of PvP in an MMO. I mean, war was never just people, so, I mean, now you're dealing with your different siege weapons, and it's going to be nice because it's not just going to be let's zerg at each other and see who has the best skills. I think there's going to be a lot more strategy involved when you have to deal with these different weapons.
Yeah, like Lance said, war itself was never just fought person against person. You had all types of vehicles, whether it be siege engines, tanks, catapults, whatever. So adding a catapult or a siege engine or something along those lines into the battle really increases the difficulty for both sides and adds to the fun of it because you have to change up your tactics. You can't just zerg at everybody. And yeah, Hayyt, anybody can jump into the convo if you want to. But I mean, adding to the difficulty, having you have to change your tactics and all that other stuff really adds to the excitement and to the enjoyment of the game, and I'm really looking forward to that.
It sounds like it's going to add a whole more realistic tactic style of play to PvP. This whole siege warfare, keep taking and holding and such like that, as opposed to like the structured individual or small grouping that you've gotten in WoW and many other PvP styles and games.
So knowing that there's going to be that siege warfare, what do you guys are anticipating is going to happen? What do you think is going to be like one of the top things that either you want to see or you know it's going to happen?
Full-out warfare that takes hours, days to finish because people keep demolishing siege engines and people actually coming together to work together and think as a faction rather than thinking as a person. So kind of like another game that I play, Battlefield 3. In order to really win in some of the style games in Battlefield, you have to work together as a team. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. So that whole working as a team to overcome certain challenges, I think is what pulls me in the most and is what I look forward to in the PvP in this aspect in Tesso.
So with the Keep Siege and Keep Warfare, you guys, as a team, as a faction, you're able to go and take over a keep. You can either go in through the doors, you can go in taking down a wall. Now, they have announced that if you take down a wall and you do claim that keep, that wall stays down. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Like, I know in other games, the wall's always automatically repaired.
It makes you feel that sense of ownership. You took over this keep, you destroyed the walls, now it's your responsibility to build that wall back up. That I like, because they're trying to make it realistic, but at the same time keeping it friendly to gamers. So you knock down a wall, you have to spend the resources and the time to get that wall back up and ready for if someone wants to attack you. So it adds that sense of ownership, like, holy shit, we took over this keep, now it's a mess, we gotta fix it.
I think the other thing is taking it back to strategy. I mean, it's going to make you or drive you to want to take a keep in the least demolishing amount of way, the most efficient way, so that when you take it, you're not completely vulnerable to get taken back again. Because the biggest thing we have to consider here, compared to most MMOs, it's not one side versus another side. You know, it's a three-sided battle here. So if you got a nice strategic enemy just, waiting on the horizon for you to take a weak point, they're just going to come swoop in and take it right out from underneath you. So I think it's going to add a lot more strategy to the fights more than anything else.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're going through the gates of a keep sort of thing, what does it cost to repair those? If you go through a wall, what does it cost to repair that? Is somebody waiting in the wings for you to go on? One would assume they are, no matter what the location. So you've got to look at it, that kind of strategy, which seems like a pretty new thing. There's not many strategy games out there that are multiplayer where you have to think in kind of that level.
Yeah, and you guys keep bringing up strategy, and Altiar was talking about, I think it was Battlefield you mentioned. The way they're planning for us to take these keeps is, okay, say we take down the wall. Okay, we've taken down the wall. Now, in other games, it's always, okay, you take down the wall, you go in, you kill the Lord, you claim the keep. Well, in ESO, they're planning to do multiple objectives within inside the keep. So if you take down the wall, you have to claim the inner keep. So, again, going back to what Altiar said about Battlefield, if you've ever played in a first-person shooter multiplayer in the past, there's always been objectives. You go capture a flag. In order to capture the flag, you have to stand there for 5 or 10 seconds. The more people, obviously, the faster it goes. Now, I'm not saying in ESO it's going to be 5 to 10 seconds, but there's going to be multiple little flags that you have to capture. So going back to strategy, I mean, you're going to have to, if you have 15, 20 people, you're going to have to strategize, okay, where do we want these 15, 20 people? Do we want to Zerg, take one flag at a time, station them out at multiple different spots? So I think that's going to be a really good aspect of it. I mean, I can't think of a single MMO that does the first-person objective idea.
I mean, other than your standard capture the flags built into some of the current WoW battlegrounds being somewhat similar, it's still very decent. I mean, or very different. It's on a much bigger scale mainly, but I mean that's a gameplay style that has been proven effective and I think extremely fun in all aspects. I mean, planet side, Battlefield, and even Call of Duty as well in some aspects, and many other shooters. I mean, it's been a shooter thing, but I think it's a great idea to move into the MMO world.
And I really like the idea that you've said they're coming out with is multiple capture points and how you can do that. You get a lot of first-person shooters, and it's capture the flag sort of thing, or just take the main room. Gladys mentioned Planet Side a couple times. Both the original and especially the new one is like that, where there's a lot of multiple points. And what you're using to take those points, whatever the keep is, for example, in this case, depends on the hardware you need to bring to the table, whether it's what siege engines or troop types or what have you. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I really think having to strategize to do something with your group, not just your guild but your faction, it is a lot of fun. Take Lord of Ultimate, for example. You have to build an alliance, and the objective is to ultimately capture the continent and become the Lord. You can't do that by yourself and acting blindly. You have to work together to capture other cities and build other cities and build the network big enough to be able to rule without worrying of a castle or something being taken over. So having to work together and pinpoint different choke points that you have to have people at, or have people stealthing around and acting like snipers and taking people out from a long distance and things like that. It really adds to that sense of working together and accomplishment, and really adds to the style of gameplay that they're going to bring to the table, and it sounds like everything is going to be a whole lot of fun.
So, from the sounds of it, it sounds like you guys, again, not being PvP players, it sounds like you guys are going to be spending probably quite a bit of time in the PvP zone. Now, another really cool feature of it that we haven't even touched base on is the fact that a level 1 can go in to this PvP zone and actually help compete in the world, because it'll bump you up, very similar to what Guild Wars 2 does. It takes you from level 1 to level 80, but you have the stats of level 80, you don't have the gear of it. So you're at a slight disadvantage, but you're still able to compete. So what do you guys think of that? Do you think that's a good idea, or do you think that's just going to be a little shady?
I never liked it.
I don't know. It's nice if you want to get a taste of what PvP is going to be like when you get to cap level, but at the same time, I think they should set it up, if you're going to do world PvP, if you shouldn't go in if you're not cap level. I think you have to work your way up to be able to take keeps and stuff like that. They should kind of build that up in a storyline, where that is the end part of your storyline or something like that, or intertwines with your story. So as you're going through the quests and all that in Tesso, it brings you into Cyrodiil. You get to learn about that whole entire storyline, and then once you do that, you unlock the option to go there in PvP. That's how I would like to see it, but like Lance said, I didn't really care for being able to, at level 10, go into a PvP zone and automatically jump to level 80.
The whole idea of being boosted to a comparative level is one thing. It'll get people a feel, but there's also a sense of accomplishment. It gives a bunch of the slackers, essentially, a chance to go in and play. That being said, every strategy game or something like that, you need wall fodder. Send in the 1st and 10th levels. Let them learn that way.
I don't like it just because I think it's a tease, in my personal opinion. I mean, just like in any other game that lets you PvP at lower levels, they try to balance out your stats, but you don't have all the skills. I mean, you may have knowledge, you don't have the gear, you don't have the skills. I don't like it because it's a tease. Okay, you can kind of compete, but it's nowhere near in competing with an actual, not even well-geared, but just appropriately level-geared, maximum level player. It's not the same. I think it's pointless.
But it depends on what the roles are, how they roll out the strategy, and, for example, siege weaponry or certain things. You may not need to be 80th level with top PvP gear if they actually have players operating, say, a trebuchet or a ballista or something, right? The 1st through 10ths can do that perfectly fine, and it will still give them, the camaraderie and activeness within the game to do it. Now, if you're going only one-on-one or groups of players on players, and the machinery kind of is run on its own, then that's a different story completely.
That's a good point. And with the quests, they will have other things to do. I guess I just have a little bit of a bitter taste because of how other games that tried to do that, there was still such a major difference between not max level and max level that it was pointless that they tried. But as long as those side quests, rebuilding the keep and things like that, have enough of a reason to be done, and not saying that that's what the lobby's got to do, go do the bitch work, don't help with PvP, but I guess there's other reasons.
Well, completely. It's great that they say, out of 20 guys, there's the 10 guys who are max level, max gear, max everything, right? And they need to be there because they have to do whatever they're doing, including keeping the bad guys off the keep wall. On the other hand, those walls have to go up, and they're just as important as, defending the walls or running whatever. Like I said, it really depends on how they're going to run the mechanics of the siege warfare kind of thing.
Now, you guys are talking about the walls being down and repairing them. The one thing one of the devs said, and this is kind of where everything kind of fights against itself, they said that they want it to be fast. So you want to be able to take a keep. No, not fast, take the keep fast, but after you take the keep, they want you to be able to jump back into combat. So if the walls are down, and if you don't have any upgrades or guards currently, at some point, as you own the keep, you'll start getting the guards. So there's a couple things that they've mentioned. They mentioned that the walls will stay down. So how are they going to make it so you can build the walls, like repair them? Is it going to be a craft skill, so you're going to have someone who's got siege working as a craft or something like that? And I do know that they're also going to be incorporating putting things on the wall, so you can put like boiling water above the doors or boiling oil above the doors, specific guard types, like you can have a caster or a ranger, at different hook points throughout the keep. So if they want it to be fast from taking the keep and going back into combat, how are they going to roll all this out? Like I know in Dark Age, if the door was down and we had to go repair it, you'd have somebody with a really high woodworking skill to go literally sit by the door and spam a button that's slash repair, and you have to have tons of wood on you. You have to go repair the door. And that's also how you upgraded the doors, was you actually had to repair the doors, use wood from your bag. So it'll be interesting to see how they push this out, because they say they want it to be fast, but yet they also want to incorporate all these other little things, which to me seem like they're going to add a lot of time.
Well, they can add a skill-based repair, as you've just saying, or they could do similar to a resource style that other games have done, where when you control an area, you get so many resources, whether it be wood, deuterium, whatever the case may be, and those resources are back towards the thing. So if you happen to have a whole bank full of stuff, you just throw the cash at it, up the wall it goes. Well, if you're just claiming this territory and you need some of those resources to fill up bank space, your wall is going to go up a little bit slower. Again, as you say, it depends how they roll this out, like what the mechanic is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they push it out. I mean, like I said, that's just one of the things that, to me, seemed like they kind of fought against each other. Just on let's kind of move on with some of our topics. Let's talk about PvP targeting and just targeting in general, because I think in PvP that's going to be a really big one. And again, I'm going to pull from Dark Age of Camelot because that's where a lot of my PvP and world battles history comes from. In PvP or RBR in that game, they made it slightly easy because you would be able to make a macro for /stick/follow. So you would target somebody, type /stick. It would automatically stick to them. So all you have to do was worry about hitting your buttons. And then you'd have the rest of your group make a macro /assist his name. It targets him, and it'll also stick to that person. So again, you just have what we called an assist train. But you'd have to physically target the mob for that. And in ESO, if you've ever played any of the other Scrolls games in the past, there is no physical targeting. You had a small reticle. It's whatever's in front of you, you would hit. Or if you wanted to interact with an NPC, you'd have to walk right up to him, stare right at him in the face, and hit E. There was an article by TamrielFoundry.com. They wrote about targeting and how it's going to work. They actually asked one of the devs, and Glenn and I talked about this earlier this week, is they talk about tab targeting, so you'll be able to physically target individual mobs and NPCs, but they also talked about lag and how that's going to incorporate certain aspects of it. And that's kind of where me and Glenn started talking, was we were kind of curious about how the Hunter and the Ranger class are going to use this quote-unquote lag issue. So what do you guys think they're going to do for targeting? I mean, it's an MMO. In every MMO, you have to be able to target something to interact with it. Or if there's, let's say, for example, you're fighting 5 mobs, right? I'm the tank, or Glenn's the tank, fighting 5 mobs. How do you know which mob to hit? I mean, if in the EC or the test games, there's no targeting system, so you don't know. You just start beating on whatever's in front. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I hope they stick to their original guns with this. I mean, with the original, or with Elder Scrolls games as they are now, you start swinging your sword, and you will, as you say, just hit what's in front of you. But not only that, it puts your cleaves and your wide swings into real aspect. You have to aim them properly if you want to hit multiple targets, especially if you're tanking. Keep aggro on multiple things. It's just going to be more realistic in that sense, that you don't just switch between targets. You move your character around and you do that. And regarding the lag thing, one of the things that you talked about with me about it is you were recommending to, compare lag to like how lag is in PlanetSide was the best example, because that is an MMO that has a lot of people, it has a high possibility for lag, and it has sniping, long range attacks. And I'll be honest, I mean, I've been in a lot of heated battles, and it's not been an issue. I think it's something that they can handle, personally. I hope it's something they can handle, because I don't want to see homing arrows. I want it to be just like it has in the past.
So by homing arrows, you mean sort of, I'm going to pull World of Warcraft in here, so you're talking like a fireball that if I cast a fireball and the other person starts running, it just kind of follows behind them until it catches up?
Exactly. I don't want that.
So, but again, if you take, and this is going to kind of spark the exact same argument that we were having, is if you have the ranged class in an MMO where you have millions of people playing, how are they going to compete with that average user's internet, average user's computer, and having to follow the mob? Like, if the mob's running in a current Elder Scrolls game, if the mob is running, you have to aim ahead of it, and depending on how far it is, above it, because the arrow obviously has an arc to it. I think that's going to be a very challenging issue for them. Whereas we talked about PlanetSide. PlanetSide are straight trajectories. The bullets go straight. There's no up and downs, right? So there's no Z-axis.
No, that's not true.
Oh, they go up. They definitely drop. I mean, there is travel time, and they do drop. It's not, you put the reticle on them and you hit. You have to lead. You have to aim high. You have to do all of that. Now, granted, it's not the same as a bow and arrow, but, I mean, you're talking about a game that has magic and all that other jazz in it, and it's going to have skill trees. Let's put some skill trees into some faster projectiles and actually have an efficient sniper as a bow and arrow. I think it's possible. I really honestly do.
Yeah, I agree with Glenn. I really do like the idea of having to think about what you're aiming at and whatnot to attack the target. It adds that different sense of style, different type of MMO gameplay. While it might be a little difficult for the average user to do, I think after a while they'll get used to it. I mean, anybody who's played an Elder Scroll game is used to the having to aim above or aim ahead or actually pay attention and aim at what you're shooting at rather than attack it just by mashing buttons. But from what I understand, there is going to be some type of tab targeting or something along those lines to allow you to get to the closest mob within proximity or something like that. But I don't want to see another target and all your attacks hit it unless it's out of range. I really like the option, how they're doing it, of how you have to focus on what you're attacking and pay attention.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. I think the more realistic style of targeting and acquiring and hitting your target, whatever the genre may be, is something that's something very good. It's more realistic. Now, with the lag sort of thing, of course, you're looking for the game, the host servers to be pretty decent, so you don't get a lot of lag from their end. Of course, you're always going to get some people who don't have either a really decent computer and can barely hit, but just do get into the game, or you have people with slower internet. And that happens, unfortunately, but that's, again, fact of life.
Now, I'm going to kind of shoot myself in the foot here, but most of you guys know I've never played a real Elder Scrolls game or actually played through it fully. I mean, I would play for a couple hours and be like, okay, maybe I don't like this game. But I'm a huge, huge MMO fan. I've played unbelievably copious amounts of hours with MMOs. Do you think having that kind of combat system or that kind of, well, again, we'll use the bow and arrow type of style, do you think it's going to deter people from playing this game?
Not at all. I don't think it will at all. I mean, it might for some people who don't like change, but for those who want to try something new, want more difficulty, I think they will like it. They'll adapt to it, get used to it, and fall in love with it. Me personally, I love the targeting system that is used in Elder Scrolls. So, no, I don't think it's going to deter people away or make less people want to play. I think it's just going to make people have to change the way that they play the game and, you know, get better at actually having to target stuff rather than just alt-tabbing.
I agree with Altiar for all his reasons. Then on top of that as well, if this was a brand new style of gameplay, you'd have a lot. People would have a lot harder time. But there's enough games out there that run combat with that style of target acquisition and again damaging them out there, and a lot of people just play other games too. Like you said, Garb, yourself, you have played so many, hundreds of thousands of hours on MMOs that I'm sure that style of combat is not something new to you.
I'm in the closed beta for one game. There is an NDA on it, so I can't say which game and I can't say anything about it. But I will say that it is incorporating the type of style that ESO plans to do. And it is the very first game I've ever seen do it. So it's actually really fun, to be honest with you. I actually enjoy it. It's an interesting twist on it. And Hayyt, you were saying that other games do this kind of style, and they do, but they're single-player games. We're talking an MMO now, where, and I do and I don't want to say this, but WoW has killed the MMO community. I mean, we were having this discussion on one of the other live streams with Gregoin. He's a writer for MMORPG.com. He was playing Dark Age of Camelot on Wednesday, and we were talking about how it isn't a noob-friendly game. I mean, it's a game where if a new person were to jump into it, they're going to hate it because there's no real tutorials, there's no real thing that spoon-feeds you. World of Warcraft came along, and it spoon-fed a lot of the community. I mean, with the question marks over the heads, the exclamation marks, the add-ons, I really I despise add-ons, you all know that. I think add-ons kill the game. So I honestly think World of Warcraft has kind of dumbed down the intelligence of the MMO community strictly because it spoon-feeds a lot of the information.
Oh, it has. I mean, World of Warcraft, and I still play because I enjoy the people that I play with, not so much as much as that I enjoy the game, although the new content is very pretty. Anyways, but there has been other games less popular than World of Warcraft, of course. We'll go back to this one as the original PlanetSide had that kind of even the area effect stuff was the same. I mean, you target, you shoot, the guys can be gone from there. Your projectile, you have to rig arc and all that kind of stuff works in. And there's been a couple out there, but I do agree with you about the World of Warcraft being a very C-spot run.
What do you think, Glenn, out there? Like, do you agree? Do you disagree? Like, I just think that new games coming out are trying to be similar to World of Warcraft, and I think the MMO community wants it. But as soon as something comes out very similar to World of Warcraft, they boycott it and call it a WoW clone. So the MMO community is very weird.
I don't think it's the MMO community as much as it is big business ruining games in general, in my opinion. I mean, I know you're not a WoW fan anymore. I play it. I enjoy playing with the people I play with. And the one thing I will say is it's not vanilla. And you would agree it's not vanilla, obviously. And there's times I wish vanilla was back. You know, I wouldn't mind not having LFG. I wouldn't mind having some of the other things. But I don't think it was too bad in vanilla. I don't think it was too easy. I don't think at all. And the problem with Blizzard and with any other big publisher, or even it may even be morely Activision than it is Blizzard. They get the money signs in their eyes, and that's all they care about. And I just think there's too much of that. I don't blame too much on the game itself for that. I think it's completely the stick up their backs that is making them just do whatever makes the most amount of money.
Yeah, I agree with Glenn on that. It's not about appeasing to the fans anymore. It's about making as much money as possible. And I mean, I don't know. I personally don't care much for WoW anymore. I've played it way too much. But I mean, I'm glad that they're not looking to go the traditional WoW route and try and be like WoW. And I'm not gonna try and judge it and compare it to WoW, but we all know that everybody's going to. So, I mean, whatever, we'll see what happens regardless. Tesso's still going to have a large following because there's more people that follow, believe it or not, more people that follow Tesso than there are people that play WoW.
But it's a much quieter group, though, that's for sure.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. But it's funny that you say that because, again, Glenn and I were kind of having this conversation on Tuesday. Are people going to be angry taking their wonderful, idealistic single-player game and dropping it into an MMO? There's going to be compromise. There's going to be things that are totally different. Things that in the single-player game they can do, but they cannot do in an MMO because it's just they have to have that community aspect.
I thought about you saying that a lot after we had our conversation. I mean, after we talked about it, while we were talking about it, I don't know if you remember, I was pretty dead set on everyone being gung-ho about it and everyone being excited about it. And then I actually thought back and just, a couple of my close buddies that are big Elder Scrolls fans, they're not interested at all in the online game. And I was just thinking about that. Some people really like the solo aspect of that game, and maybe there really won't be as much of people flocking to the MMO as I originally thought. So I kind of think that we'll be surprised at how many people don't jump on the bandwagon right away.
Well, I mean, with any single player game that goes to an MMO, you're always going to have those loyal groups who don't want to do it because it takes away from the way that the game was originally played. The vastness of the Elder Scrolls games and the way that you build your hero in that game and do stuff like that is sort of going to be taken away in Tesso because there's millions of people playing that same game, going through the storylines, but each storyline is going to be different, right? I mean, not every person is going to make the same decisions and kill the same people and save the same people, so everybody's story is going to be a little bit different, and I think eventually, if Tesso does well, the majority of the folks who play Tesso online, single player, will give it a try and play it to be with other people from the Tesso community, and I think they will enjoy it as I hope I will.
What iteration is this for the Scrolls?
Well, it's not going to fall in line with everything else. You're talking about a game that's going to be taking, I believe it was approximately 1,000 years before Oblivion, which is the fourth one. So it's really not really following in that line.
No, but I mean, is this what number in the series is the MMO version of this game?
It's not going to get a number.
This is 1,000 years before Oblivion and Skyrim.
Yeah. It's well before any numbered game. It's not on any of the timelines.
Okay, but I guess what I'm asking is, how long has Elder Scrolls been out there as a whole?
Since
1994?
Xbox, since before Xbox, the original Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about old games. I mean, Elder Scrolls 1 is,
I
I'd say,
believe it was
15 to 20 years old.
1993. 93 came the first one. 96, I think, was Daggerfall. And then 2001 was a Morrowind?
Morrowind would have been next, yeah.
Yeah, and then
And that sounds
2000,
about right for Morrowind.
yeah, and then I think it was 2006 was Oblivion, and then what, last year? No, year before was Skyrim?
About that, yep.
Okay, so basically you're looking at kind of the evolution of gaming as a whole, though. MMOs just weren't really out there that early on. So you went from first-person shooters or turn strategy-based games or whatever you're doing, and it's now the evolution. A lot of people are going to MMOs. It's how well they adapt, right? And definitely some of that is simply because MMOs are becoming more popular these days, and they want to keep the genre alive.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
One thing that I will say, though, is that I'd say the general aspect is MMOs are good. I mean, a lot of people like them, but I feel like the really hardcore, dedicated players, they're the stubborn ones. They're the ones that are going to be harder to convince that it's going to be better that way.
Yeah, well, everybody's. I mean, I think for a while, a lot of your people who play. I drew a blank for a second to play Elder Scrolls. It's going to take a while to convince a lot of them that going online and playing an MMO is going to be the way to go, especially if they're not real big into the MMO community, because they all hear about all these other MMOs that rise and then fall because of WoW and stuff like that. But I think Tesla will do a good job. I think it will get the Tesla crowd over. I mean, it's going to be a huge game, open to the entire world in the Elder Scrolls game, not just the area where Oblivion took place or Skyrim or any other part of the map at all. It's going to be the entire map. You have the ability to play all these different characters and interact with millions of people who already are fans of the Elder Scrolls gaming style and storyline and lore and all that. So I think after a while, once it gets good reviews and everyone's like, oh yeah, this is a great game, it's not like your traditional MMO where it comes in, it's good for like the first year and then it starts to suck and stuff like that. So I think once it gets where it needs to go, everything will be fine and it'll be great.
Like, I don't know. I think it's going to be like we were talking about before. I think you're gonna see a lot of angry people trying to take. It kind of goes back to the first conversation we had, the first discussion we had about taking the hero god complex and dropping it into an MMO. I mean, we've seen it in Star Wars, and I don't want to bring up this conversation. We've already discussed it, and I think right now it's just like beating a dead horse. But I think that's going to be the biggest issue: is trying to tell those people that are diehard Elder Scrolls fans that, hey, you know what? The online version of this is the same as what you're used to. Mind you, there's going to be a couple different changes, but even between Morrowind and Skyrim, there were some pretty big changes to the game itself.
Yeah. Between Morrowind and Skyrim, a lot of things changed. Mechanics changed, graphics changed as time went on, and stuff like that. And I mean, the concept and everything was the same, but it progressed to be a lot better of a game. And they're going to be using the Skyrim graphics, and I think Skyrim is a beautiful looking game. And I mean, I'm going back to I think you give it a little bit and it'll be great. I mean, let's take a look at a lot of your hardcore SWTOR fans. Star Wars fans? How many of them were bitching and moaning that Star Wars was going to suck? While it's not as good as an MMO as some of the others, it's still a good game and people still enjoy the game and play it, and it's got great storyline up until cap level. So it's like any traditional MMO. It's going to have its people who bitch, moan, and complain, and then It's going to have its people who grace it and say it's great, and we'll just have to take it as it goes, and hopefully it does really well.
Yeah, you're always going to have your detractors for whatever reason. People are going to bitch and moan about this or that or everything else. It just happens. There's just different people, different views. And I agree. As long as they keep the same theme and genre and stuff, and they keep it the Elder Scrolls and don't try something else, people will come and stay, I think.
Yeah, like I definitely think after time it'll become big. It's that time aspect. How long is it going to take? Like, right now we're talking. It's going to be a reverse version of what happened to SOTOR. SOTOR was massive when it came out, and then 6 months later it died down. And I mean, we're thinking again the exact opposite. We're thinking it's going to be small, but then get really big.
I think that's a better way to go, though. I mean, like, SWTOR died. I think it died for how big it got, because not only did the developers and the publishers just get big heads, but they couldn't handle it. They couldn't keep up with the bugs. I mean, it almost seems like they didn't even try in Star Wars, but again, dead horse, not going to beat it. So I think it's a better way to go. You keep with the curve. I mean, that's how WoW did. I mean, that's why they are where they are. It was word of mouth, and it was a slow grow.
Glandict, I agree with you 100%. I think the slow grow is better. You've got your hardcore Elder Scrolls people. It's better to grow from small. That's exactly what WoW did and why it is where it is today. I did open and close beta for vanilla. And if you can prove out of the gate, or at least over your initial duration, that it is a good game, you're gonna bring in the other people, and they'll stay there. With Star Wars, you're dealing with something else too. You're dealing with a massive fan base, and it's not just the games, whatever video games. You've got movies, books, and everything else, and that attracted a ton of people initially. And then they, again, bored, bugs, whatever, dead horse, so they left.
Yeah, I agree. I think starting off small and getting big is the way to go. I mean, because if it starts small and then it gets big, people look at it and see, okay, this is actually a game worth playing. If it starts big and gets small, people start to think maybe it's not such a good game. So, I mean, that is definitely the way to go, and I think that is the way that it is going to go. But regardless, I think regardless of which way TESO goes, it's still going to be a great game, especially with all the stuff they are trying to incorporate into the game.
So, before we get back onto the PvP topic, one question popped in my mind. What is the worst thing that they can do to ESO to make it fail? Like, what do you think the worst thing they can do to it?
Make it like another MO, or too much like it.
Try and compare it to WoW or Star Wars. Trying to compare it to it in any way, shape, or form is going to kill the game, or adding certain features into TESO that are in WoW will completely destroy the game, in my opinion, such as like the Raid Finder. I think that is going to would destroy the game if they ever incorporated something like that.
I agree as well. Massive add-ons, the very C-spot run sort of gameplay that WoW has. And I mean, we're all talking a lot about WoW simply because it's the biggest and the most well-known. But I mean, there's other companies that have tried to do their own thing, but in a sort of WoW theme, and it just doesn't work. Like, I agree with both Altiar and Glandict. Elder Scrolls has to stay Elder Scrolls.
I just want to jump in really quickly about the whole game being small in the beginning. It's not going to happen. These are big studios. They can afford to have a small launch. They want it to be as gigantic as it can possibly be, and that's what's going to get the people.
They have it, the capability, but when you're talking Star Wars, you're talking fans of not only the games, but you're talking about Star Wars fans of like the entire franchise. I mean, it's huge. I mean, you're definitely dealing with a smaller fan base in this, more akin to how WoW was.
Isn't it?
I mean, it's like what WoW was when WoW came out. It was big enough to be very successful at first, but not too big that it overloads themselves. I mean, I think it has the potential of a smooth launch that's big enough that it's good, but not too big that it kills them. Because that's what happened to Star Wars, in my opinion. Like Chris said, they got murdered with how big they got in the beginning.
Well, they couldn't keep up with it, for sure. But that's the whole point, right? I mean, one thing you guys have missed, I think, in all your discussions is the money. These studios are spending so much money that they don't get the green flag unless they can produce certain numbers.
Yeah, but the one good thing I can say about this, and I could be wrong, and I hate to make a dumb comment like this, but, I mean, aren't we just dealing with Bethesda and, what's the stupid online?
ZeniMax?
ZeniMax. I mean, aren't those the only two we're dealing with here?
But they're still laying a huge amount of money on the line to be able to produce this game. It's a massive undertaking.
It is, and with the
They
mega
need to be able
servers,
to
I mean,
guarantee a certain number of subscribers, or the people with the deep pockets are going to say, forget it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the money does have a large part into it. Also, I think with Tesso, it helps that one of their top directors also has had their hand in the pocket of many different MMO games, as to where other games, talk about Star Wars again, was the first MMO that most of the people that worked on the project created. So having that on top of deep pockets and a large following base to start with will help with making this game more successful than other MMOs.
Yeah, you have to meet the bottom line. Like, they're they're not making this. It's not an open source game per se, right? Like, they're in it to make money. But on the same hand, you must be aware of the pitfalls that are out there that people have seen time and time again going up against or imitating WoW in any fashion.
Well, for sure, but this is one of those classic examples of the people with the money not really understanding what makes a good game.
So here's an interesting question on the topic of money. With ESO and TESO or TES being so big, what do you guys think the pay structure is going to be? Do you think ESO is going to be pay to play? Do you think it's going to be buy to play? Do you think it's going to be free to play?
I think it's going to be pay to play. Like some of your better MMOs, pay the $15 a month to play, and you get everything but new expansions for free. All the patches and everything that come up. But also, I think if they go the free to play route, personally, I think it'll hurt the game, because while some games make a whole shitload of profit off of it, you also kind of need that money to pay the employees, to keep them going. That money also helps to ensure that the servers stay up to date, that the servers don't go down, and that there's people there watching the servers, and you got the money there from us to give us that tech support or in-game support if something doesn't work right, or that's also the money to help with development, to increasing the storyline, giving us more stuff to do and things like that. So I think they should go pay to play. I have no problem subscribing to play Tesso. I don't know how I would feel if they went free to play.
Well, I think that is all obviously under speculation because they haven't said, but also, I mean, what makes an MMO expensive is how many subscribers they have. I mean, that is what controls how many employees you have. That is what controls how many servers you have to run on your farm. I mean, that your complete spending in an MMO is how many subscribers you have. And I think we hopefully will have a better idea of which way they're going to lean when we finally get some beta action and we can see how popular the game actually is.
They say that the way that Guild Wars is being run and now SWTOR is the new model for games. I've read quite a few articles on the fact that the subscription-based model, which WoW is based on, is a dying breed.
I do agree with that, and I think PlanetSide is a good example. I mean, you're talking about a game that's not only very similar to the model of those two games, but a game that, I mean, it's completely free. There was no purchase price even with PlanetSide 2, specifically, I should state. So it's definitely capable, but, I mean, you got to think about how many subscribers you have. I mean, how much do they have to handle? How often are you getting new information? I think Guild Wars 2 is the most successful at being the biggest, or Guild Wars in general, being as big or close to as big as WoW, and still lots of content for a nice free-to-play price.
Apparently those games actually make more than the WoW subscription-based game now.
Yeah, I think I was talking to Greg about this the other day, because I was watching a stream, and they had some of the big hotshots on a couple of the article websites that I watch or read, and they were saying that they actually spend more than $15 a month on their microtransaction auction house or whatever they have in the free-to-play games than they do actually on the subscription-based games. And Altiar was saying that having the subscription-based games, all that money actually goes to the back end, to the development and stuff like that. But again, we can take that idea and then look at what else is out there right now. For example, Guild Wars 2, you guys have mentioned it. It came out in what, September? And August, sorry. And in the last 4 months, they've done huge content releases. The holiday one, again, some people say the holidays aren't content, but they really are. For a brand new game, during the first year, it's content. Like, I mean, it's something to do. It's something they're putting into the game. It's content.
I think just because of the way games are going, especially MMOs these days, it's going free to play. That's the theme du jour, if you will. You know,
I'll read my thing.
I think a free to play will bring more players in initially. It's just the bottom line again. The cash thing is how they can and how they want to run it. Free to play and bring in tons of people at once, or do a subscription based, which, as Greg said, is a dying thing. But that way, chances are you're only going to get people who are really going to play, at least for a substantial amount of time.
So, do you guys, and again, in this quick, simple answer, what do you guys think? Do you think it's going to be free to play at the start, like when the game is released? Do you think it's going to go free to play or sub-based?
I think it'll be free to play.
I think it'll be sub-based.
What do you think, Altair?
I think it's going to be sub-based all the way.
Greg, what do you think?
I mean,
Sorry, I didn't catch what you said there last, Garb.
I was just asking Greg what he thought, if he thinks it's going to be sub or free to play.
I think they're going to go the route that they went with Guild Wars. I think you're going to pay an initial fee for the game, and then I think it's going to be free to play after that.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's because nothing's been said. I mean, it's a hot topic for everybody. I mean, a lot of people, and again, I've actually read a lot of posts where people are like, you know what, I'm such a diehard fan. I would be willing to give them $100 up front to say, you know what, I will pay. So, and there's people that are like, I won't play this game if it's sub based. But it's a tough thing, because I mean, like I said, you got Guild Wars 2, who's done great with that idea. PlanetSide 2, again, doing phenomenal with that idea. Future games like Path of Exile, it's 100% free when it's released, and it's definitely going to be an interesting route for companies to take in the future. Like microtransactions, I think, are going to be a big one.
Well, to hit on what you said about you have your people who will drop $100 up front to play the game, and those people who won't pay to play a game, you're going to get that regardless of what the game is. You've got people who love video games but won't play a game like Star Wars or WoW because, you have to pay that extra $15 to play the game on top of the $30 to $60 that it costs to buy the game, and then all the expansion packs that come with it. You're going to get that with every game, so it's really here or there per person, but people who really want to play the game, they'll play it regardless if it's free to play or pay to play or whatever. So I don't think they'll be at fault regardless which way they go, if it's free to play or pay to play. But I think at first they'll start off with pay to play and maybe have a free to play option, sort of like what SWTOR recently released, with maybe some restricted functions or something like that. Or they might go the route of WoW's free to play option, where you get to test it out and see if you like it or not.
well, if they do a sub, I think they'll definitely do a trial run type of thing. But I mainly think it'll be sub right away, mainly just because, as Greg was saying, to make investors happy and things like that, the subs give a much more definite income base for the publisher than the free-to-play.
Well, but that's not what they're finding out. My understanding is it's kind of the opposite. Initially, whether you pay for the game, I think that's going to be kind of up in the air until it comes out, or like they've announced. But they found that the microtransactions are highly more profitable than the subscription itself. That being the case and proven, I think it's going to be a free-to-play with microtransactions of some kind.
Now, with that being said, microtransactions again, if you think of free-to-play games, there's always a limit. There's always something in the game that can be monetized, which is, I'm surprised World of Warcraft actually hasn't gone that way because there's so many options within it that can be monetized. But take a look at Star Wars' new free-to-play model. I mean, there's how many different things that are monetized. I mean, you can only play 2 characters. You can't do end-game raiding. There's so many options that they use to monetize to make money. What in TES games that they're going to incorporate into the ESO games do you think will be monetized?
Well, they can do all kinds of stuff, and to mention this one game again, PlanetSide 2, being completely free to play. You don't even have to buy the game. You can get all the weapons that are available for whatever class you have to play over time through certification points of essentially experience. But my understanding from at least that game is that most of the microtransaction money they're making is from stuff like decals, helmets, camouflage, all very personal customization stuff. So with that in mind, you can customize pretty much whatever you want and make it a microtransaction.
Microtransactions are also whim-based, which is what the whole consumer society is built on. You see it, it's built up that you want it, it's not very much, $5, maybe $10. You get it. Next week, same thing. Third week, next thing. You've already spent double what the subscription is and you're not even done your month yet. But it doesn't feel like you have because it's been these small, momentary purchases that you're like, oh, I can afford that.
As you pass through the aisle.
So you guys are thinking vanity items more than anything. Like, I think if WoW went free to play, Greg would spend a fortune on the vanity items, the pets, the mounts, the prettiness.
I already have.
It's true, he has.
I just think that style, the vanity or the personal customization aspect to the games, is a good way a proven way to get players to spend money without crimping the experience or what happened a lot initially was the pay-to-win style of play.
Conversely as well, I've applied the same formula to Guild Wars. I've purchased things twice. It's been less than a monthly subscription to WoW has been, so I feel perfectly like I'm getting a good deal in Guild Wars.
To hit back on what Kurt was talking about in regards to monetizing stuff, I think in Tesso, certain things that they can monetize if they went the pay-to-play versus free-to-play option. Like in Tesso, in Skyrim, for example, there's you have to increase certain skills to increase your weight capacity. I think they can set a maximum for free-to-play limit to their weight, how much they can actually carry on one person. I think they could maybe limit what guilds in the game they're able to join, such as like the Dark Brotherhood or the Thieves Guild or something along those lines, and little stupid things like that, or certain vanity items that they don't have. But the microtransactions, as far as like vanity items, different mounts, different looking gear and stuff like that, I think that's a good idea if they go the free-to-play route, but I don't think they should do any type of transactions as far as any type of gear that increases your ability to do anything. I don't think that should be something that should be able to be purchased. That should be something that should be earned through playing the game. I think everything that's microtransactions should only be, like Greg and everybody else was saying, vanity items, mounts, pets, I don't know, maybe stuff to add to your home, or I don't know, maybe like a dragon as a mount if they ever implement them into the game or something like that. But as long as it doesn't do anything to enhance your performance in the game, I'm all for it.
I agree 100% because what you're talking about is what's upset a lot of people in the MMO world is some of the games have come out and done it, which is the pay to win. I can throw money at the game and I'm now uber, and that's just not fun.
Right.
So
Yeah. Being able to
go ahead.
being able to pay to get the best gear and to win pisses me off because there's people who don't have the money to pay to get all this expensive ass gear, but work harder at it and still lose because some person who has a shit ton of money pays to get all this top of the line gear. I think paying to get stuff should only be to stuff that vanity stuff, nothing that enhances your play over time. Yeah, sure, maybe like you can pay to get like experience boosts or maybe like valor point boosts or some type of token boost or something like that, but nothing that enhances the gear that you have unless it's changing the color, changing the way it looks, things like that, because that takes away from the aspect of having to work at what you achieve and earn what you get. It adds that sense of kind of like, I don't know, that LFR nowadays in WoW. You go into LFR if you get plugged in through a raid, you didn't really earn that gear because you got carried along. So having to earn the gear shows that you are actually a decent player rather than just some person who just pays to get everything handed to them on a silver platter.
I agree.
Yeah, like I think we can all agree that if they ever put in some form of microtransaction, as long as it's not a pay-to-win scale where I can spend $20 and get this sword of 1,000 truths or whatever, you
Really?
South Park fans will get that. Yes, I had to do it. But I agree. I think we can all agree that as long as it's not a pay-to-win scale, if it's vanity items, something that'll make your character look pretty, people would definitely be all for it. And I definitely would spend probably quite a bit. I'm a huge person into the way my character looks. But let's kind of jump back on the topic. Altair, you mentioned the Dark Brotherhood, and Glandic, I know you wanted to talk about the reputations and how we want to see them or how we hope we see them transformed from the single-player game into the MMORPG game. And me and you talked about being a downright dirty thief and murderer, the kind of play that I want to do. What did you want to mention about that?
Well, my biggest thing I want to see is I love the factions. They've already confirmed pretty much that they're all going to be there in due time. But the biggest thing I want to see is I want to see factions affect each other. I want to see somebody that's a part of the Thieves Guild, not be able to visit certain towns, or, if they just sucked at being a thief, just the guards have, big old kill on sight on them. I want to be able to see factions affecting your world gameplay. I don't want to see WoW comparison here where, I just have to take the time to get all my factions to max so that I can get this and this and this and this. I want to see factions go up. I want to see factions go down. I don't want it to be a must-have for all of them, and I want it to be more realistic. I mean, you're not going to be everyone's best friend. Some people are going to hate you.
Yeah, I agree with that all the way. Like me personally, I want to get within the Black Brotherhood, kind of like how in Skyrim you become the leader of the Brotherhood. I want to do something like that. And in certain cities, if let's say you have a failed assassination attempt or someone recognizes you as someone from the Dark Brotherhood, you get automatically killed on sight, a KOS put on your head, or in certain regions you have a bounty on your head because someone saw you leaving the scene of a murder or something like that, or factions that oppose the Dark Brotherhood, and when you see them, kind of like in Assassin's Creed, if you go by a Templar, you have the option to kill them or something like that. That option should be available, and there should be cause and effects to what what factions you're a part of. Like Glenn said, if you're a member of the Thieves Guild and you're a terrible thief, there should be a bounty on your head. If you're a bad assassin, there should be a bounty on your head. But also that goes the other way. If you're a great thief or a great person in the Dark Brotherhood, you should be able to walk around the city and hear talks of this master thief who no one can catch, and or this master assassin who everybody's trying to locate, and all they get are just the shadows of him disappearing into the night or something like that. There should be that cause and effect, that awe effect in the game with these factions, rather than just spending a week and a half to grind up to 32,000 rep or whatever the cap is nowadays and say, oh, now I can get this gear.
Yeah. Like, I agree. I mean, having especially an MMO where your actions actually have repercussions. I mean, if I get caught sneaking into some guy's house late at night and stabbing a sword to their throat, I mean, that to me actually is very, very fun. I know it makes me seem a little sadistic, but I actually do. I like that idea. I like that gameplay, and that is what I do in Skyrim when I do get a chance to play. I just walk up. It's just fun.
Don't do that ever again.
Oh yeah, I will. But yeah, having those repercussions, I mean, I think that is a huge advantage to this game. And I know they mentioned that they were going to incorporate a morality system. They haven't really touched base and just said they're going to introduce it. But Altiar, you were saying something that actually kind of intrigued me was if you're being really good at a thief, being able to walk around town and having them talk about you. Again, that's that God complex that we were talking about earlier. Is you got to try to avoid something like that in order for an MMO to be massive or to be multiplayer. Because if you take your centralized story, everybody has the same story, and that I think is what is killing Star Wars in the endgame.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead. I'll go on after you, Altiar.
Yeah, but I mean, they can introduce a certain phasing. I mean, if they really get into the phasing and stuff like that, you can. So everybody's story is different, but you want to keep the story going and not have it meet a central point, and everybody's story, regardless of what class they are, becomes the same. So what you do is you introduce some sort of phasing. So okay, Kurth, you decide to join the Thieves Guild. I join the Dark Brotherhood. You're a master thief. I'm a master assassin. If we're in the same group, we get into a fate. Say they find a way to make it so my phasing and your phasing can interact with each other. So we'll be walking around the town and they'll be talking about this master thief who we can't catch, or this master assassin that they can't find, or not even just talking about them, or just something that adds that sense of being part of that faction and having that reputation and stuff like that. Having that adds to that sense of realism, and is very intriguing, because, I mean, you level your faction and then boom, nothing ever happens once you hit the cap with it, except that in most MMOs you get extra gear or a tabard or something like that, or your stuff is cheaper, repairs are cheaper, and things like that. I want something that I can interact with the world with, and they can do that with phasing. Take a look at I forget, in Wrath of the Lich King, when they first implemented it, that one Nilium, I think it was, or whatever the hell it is, up in the Storm Peaks, they had phasing where after a certain reputation level, certain things were unlocked for you that other people couldn't see, and vice versa. I think they would be able to implement something like that into the game to add that sense of realism into it.
I want to create my own alias if I become some kind of master thief. That would be cool. But no, I think they do have completely free realm. I think they have a nice, not to say empty palette, but they already have the game built. But I think they have a lot of options in how it works. I just don't want the necessity grind for rep. I want the options, and I want the morality.
The idea of the interaction with the world and the world interacting with you based on who your character is, I think that's a wonderful idea. And the thing within a guild, like you said, a faction, whether it be Thieves Guild, the Assassins, or what have you, nothing says a game, Elder Scrolls here, is that within the faction, you can have some sort of PvP, whether it's just challenges, actual combat, something, so that when you're the head of the Thieves Guild, you're actually the head of the Thieves Guild. So when they talk about you, they talk about, the Ghost or, Dave or whoever it is, until you're displaced.
Dave's a
I love
pretty
that about
crappy alias.
chat was the competing reps, and certain things were only available from that rep, and if you landed on the wrong landing, your opposing rep beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, that's a good system in general. Right now, unfortunately, none of the reps, as far as Skyrim's concerned, or any of the single players are concerned, clash like that. But I think that's understandable as well. I mean, they want somebody to experience everything, and the way that game's built, you can experience everything in the single player version. I think in the MMO, they're going to be able to have the option of limiting people to doing certain things. You create a character, you do it again if you want to experience everything. I mean, you're going to have to do it to experience all of the three sides if you want to experience everything anyway. So if you know you're going to create a new character for that, then you might as well have the opportunity or non-opportunity to be able to do everything with reputations, if that makes sense.
But you should be able to lose reputations and have that interact, simply because they've already started that interaction. Like you say, it's, sort of back, and sorry, this dates me a little bit, but it goes back to the Choose Your Own Adventure books. You choose your own adventure. Like you say, certain things become available or phased out. That should be happening later on, too, where you're, say, again, we'll use Thieves Guild, and you're doing whatever to that. You get your rep or your position. Further actions can demote you, if you will.
Yeah, I like that idea. Like getting caught as a thief gets you demoted or removed from the Thieves Guild or something like that, or getting away with everything increases your notoriety level within the Thieves Guild and makes your so-called alias well known or stuff like that, or getting caught as a master as an assassin gets you removed from the Assassin's Brotherhood and then puts a bounty on your head, and then you have to always watch your back because someone from the Assassin's Brotherhood, the Dark Brotherhood, is going to come out and try and kill you because you exposed them. Stuff like
Or
that.
just the guards.
What'd you say?
Sorry, or just the guards. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to. In a case where you're being a quote-unquote shady person or unlawful person, you don't have to worry about only your faction, but the lawful people of the world as well.
And I think that goes back to what Altiar was saying, was the repercussions. I mean, Glenn and I actually kind of started this conversation earlier the week. If you were a bad thief and you went into a town, those guards are automatically going to be like, hey, you know what, that guy's a thief, let's kick him out of town. And I think that is a really cool aspect. And if they do that really well, I think that's going to be a really fun aspect of the game. I mean, there's not a game on the market right now in the MMO world that has repercussions or has the ability to keep you out of a city until you either fix your rep with them or do something to prove that you are of loyal citizenship. But that also, what me and Glenn talked about was, if you get kicked out of this town, it also kind of fights against the idea behind ZeniMax's idea of everyone can do everything. I mean, if there's something in that town, specifically in that town, and you can't get into it, you're losing out on that aspect of the game.
Well, not necessarily, because when you first start out the game, if you join a faction, the whole entire world's not going to know you're part of the Thieves Guild or the Dark Brotherhood. You have to do something to make them known, and I mean, there's always ways to get your rep down. Like in Skyrim, you can go to jail, or you can pay your bounty, or something like that, and then all is well in the world. Speaking of which, one of the most fun times I had was the first time I actually went to jail because I didn't have the money to pay off my bounty, and then you have to attempt to break out of the prison. That was a lot of fun, but there's always ways around not being allowed in a city. You can pay off the bounty, or, I mean, go to jail, or or just fight your way through and kill all the guards or something like that. But there's always a way to get into that city if you have to.
And it sounds like, I mean, sure, you can put a couple key things in that everybody can do in some fashion, but because of the gameplay, some becomes unavailable, new paths open up simply on your choices, that makes a whole lot more possible because they're already planning on, kind of action repercussions for that as it is already. It's just a continuation of that to the faction level, for example.
My biggest concern about the guild system, I'm really intrigued about the morality system though. I'm really worried, and it's always a big concern for me, is that god complex. I mean, if you are this big member of so we'll say Dark Brotherhood, and you become the head of Dark Brotherhood, where else is there for you to go? Where else is there for anybody else in that to go? And I mean, we can talk about phasing till we're blue in the face, but I think phasing also ruins the aspect of it. I mean, if you phase into your own little area, it's no longer massively multiplayer. It's you. It's it. It's just you. So an MMO is all about having communities, and I think Guild Wars, as horrible as the end game part of it was, like the end game of the story, I think they did a really good job. I mean, the whole story up to the level 80 part of it is all single. You can do it by yourself, or you can have people come with you. But the last part of it is you are forced to join up with other people in order to fight this big final guy. And I mean, that in itself, I think, is what is an MMO. You got to get the community involved. So in the back of my head, I'm always worried about the phasing the god complex of the single player Elder Scrolls games into the multiplayer game.
But, well, you also got to think the developers have already stated that you are going to be the big hero of the world as far as the main story is concerned. So you already got a god complex going on there. They want to keep a lot of single-player aspects in this game, from what I can tell from what the developers are saying. They want it to be a single-player game that you're playing with other people, in a sense. And then Endgame brings more multiplayer into it. So I think that it's going to be an even balanced amount of both. You're going to have some single-player stuff, but I think you'll have enough of the multiplayer stuff to still remind you that it is an MMO. But yeah, I think they're going to have a lot of that you don't want. I think they are going to have a lot of God complex stuff going on. They've already said it.
Yeah, and to hit on that, Kurth, if they don't have some type of God complex where your actions and stuff like that have an effect in the game, what's the point of spending all that time to grind all that rep other than saying, oh yeah, I have it? What's the point to doing all those quest lines for that faction if there's no cause and effect?
And again, being an MMO, it's the perfect opportunity to say, well, yes, you can become the head of the Dark Brotherhood, but being an MMO gives you the opportunity for some sort of player versus player challenges, combat, whatever. And you, as I said, you simply become displaced as the head, and there may be repercussions for that. There may not be. The other thing is you're dealing with thieves and assassins. Aliases is quite common. So maybe Jimmy the Hand is out there, but they don't know Dave Squire, which is your character, right? I mean, there's so many ways to deal with stuff like that if they want to.
Also, another way that they could battle the phasing God complex thing is making, so if you're a member, making everything integrate with the world. In order to be the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, let's say Kurth, right now you're the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, but I want to be the leader of the Dark Brotherhood. We have to battle it out, and whoever wins becomes the leader, or something like that. Maybe they can incorporate some sort of maybe PvP aspect into the factions to determine who leads the Dark Brotherhood, who's in it, and whatnot. That would be a little interesting.
And that's what I was suggesting.
Well, that could be
I want to
interesting.
comment too. It would be, but I think the other thing you want to think about is too is what game has any sort of real big MMO multiplayer aspect built into rep grinding. You know what I mean? Like, when you think rep grinding, you don't think, oh, yay, it's a group, we're having fun together. No, it's a grind, and you hate your life doing it, but you do it anyways.
Right,
So,
which is what I think Tesso is going to try and get away from. They want it to be fun. They want you to enjoy what you're doing. Me personally, I hate doing rep grinds, but I do it anyway. If they give me some incentive to doing that rep grind or working my way to be the leader of the Dark Brotherhood or some high-ranking member of the Dark Brotherhood or whatnot, I would enjoy it more. If it affected my world more than it does in the traditional MMO, I would enjoy it more and put more time and effort into it rather than just the repetitive every day doing the quests to get the reputation and whatnot. That would be a whole lot more enjoyable for me.
Would you enjoy it, though, if every half an hour somebody else took that away from you and had to redo it again?
Well, there should be some type of restrictions on that. I mean, if you are the leader, there should be some sort of, I don't know, maybe like they have to do certain things to require to battle you out. They have to prove their worth in the Dark Brotherhood in order to be the leader, or they have to prove their worth in the Thieves Guild to challenge you to take your spot. They can't just join the Thieves Guild and then say, okay, I want to battle for the top. They have to prove their worth.
So what if you've got somebody that's holding on to that title for a while that's a complete douche?
Because there are douches.
A lot.
Yeah, like I can agree. Like in that idea, I mean, we're definitely not developing this game in any means, but in that idea, there's definitely flaws. I mean, you're going to have that one douchebag that is going to be spending way too much time, or several that you just can't beat. I mean, you have that one person that how do you kill that which has no life? Like, I mean, you're going to have that person.
See, I personally think that the reputations, though it's not what you wanted, Kurth, I personally think that reputations is going to be a good point of putting a good single-player aspect to the game into a multiplayer game for the times that you need to get away. So I think it's going to be single-player. I think it should be single-player.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I want the rep grind. I mean, if you've ever asked me before what makes an MMO big, it's the time sinks. It's the stupid things that I hate to do. I mean, rep grinds, the dailies, the things that keep people logging in. That's what keeps
your subscription.
Exactly. That's what keeps people logging in every day. I mean, it's those really horrible time sinks.
And you need that or the game died.
Exactly, you do. And I do want them, and I do think you need that single-player aspect of it. It's the god complex. It's you becoming the iconic character in the game that I don't like. That's the one thing I despise. Like, again, let's bring up WoW. In World of Warcraft, your character's a nobody in that game. I mean, you have your big iconic characters that you fight alongside. It's not you.
That's what Sator did really well, though. You felt you were important, but you were still the only important person in the game.
SOTOR, in all honesty, I think has the biggest god complex. I mean, you have your storyline where you kill the Emperor in one of the storylines. Spoiler alert. So there's no bigger god complex than that.
Yeah, but I mean, the ESO developers have already confirmed it. You are the hero of the world, so unfortunately, Kurth, you're going to have to get over that.
I know.
There's just too many people out there, and I mean,
it has to be the same experience for everybody.
But look at geeks and gamers of the world, right? They want people. It's an immersion. They want to be Conan the Barbarian. They want to be Gandalf or whoever, right? Like, that's part of the idea of a lot of gamers playing. They want to be the hero. So you're gonna run into that no matter what.
I want to be Bilbo Baggins.
Being Bilbo. Yeah, that's a cool song. But, Glenn, you keep saying that you're going to be the god character. Now, from what I've known, and you might have read something that I haven't read, but it starts off, and again, this is going to be a little bit of spoiler alert for some people who haven't read the intro to the game, is you start off being a prisoner, like you do in every other Elder Scrolls game, and your objective is to kill this one big guy that is attempting to take over basically all of Tamriel. Now, I don't know if they've announced that that's going to be a single storyline quest, or if it's going to be similar to what World of Warcraft has done, where you have that big iconic character of every expansion as an end-game raid boss. Again, that is an MMO aspect of it. But it ruins the single-player storyline because the end-game guy is going to be a very difficult thing to do.
Well, I guess quote-unquote spoiler word, I don't know if this is technically a spoiler, but they have talked a little bit about the story. They have talked about what the story is going to be about and things. And, I mean, I honestly can't remember which interview it was where I heard it. They have said that they are, like, you are the hero. I have read that somewhere.
Now, they do say that your WoW
Scorpion will
character is
not be
also a hero. And you're really in the big grand scheme of things, your WoW character is nowhere near a hero in that game. And again, just to reiterate, my biggest concern is and again, let's use Star Wars for example. Darth Malgus, and you guys know how much I hate this whole scenario. Darth Malgus is the iconic, it's the public, it's the PR of that game. I mean, they used him for promotion, they used him in major videos. He's killed off in a 5-man story. I mean, and there is actually no storyline for him. So, and again, let's kind of use WoW as another example. You have your PR guy, you have your big honcho, who, again, last expansion was Deathwing. You took a big bunch of people to kill him. That's an MMO to me, where you require a bunch of people to do something specific. If in TISO, the final guy I can kill by myself, that's going to upset me. Like, I might as well just play the single-player game. I might as well go play Far Cry if I'm going to do it by myself.
But we've already talked about this evening, for example, the PvP aspect, where it's not like 1 or 2 man versus 1 or 2 man. If you're taking keeps, and again, depending on what they do with this, you're taking keeps or regions or whatever it may be, that's control and team play too. I mean, there is some of that offered there. I'm sure they're going to have cooperative play for missions, quests, whatever you want to call them. I mean, it's an MMO. They're going to have that. That still doesn't mean at the end of the game you're not going to end up with your final cutscene, where you are the hero, kind of Diablo 3 style.
Yeah, I feel like I'm beating the dead horse because you guys all know how I feel and what I want. And you guys kind of want the same. You guys want the opposite thing compared to me because you guys have played the Elder Scrolls games before and you guys know the story. You guys know how it feels to be that iconic character. Whereas most of my history comes from MMOs, and I like the community aspect of it. So ideally, like I said, what I want to see, and again, I'll just reiterate and beat that dead horse, is I want to see an end game. I want to see us joining together as a group of people, as players, and going to kill the ultimate force. I mean, I don't want Star Wars be, like, again, with Star Wars, where I kill the big guy by myself, and then there's these random raids.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of single-player story styles, but I do actually agree with you in the way I want end-game content to be. I mean, that's... I don't know if you remember, we went on this tangent for almost, it seemed like an hour on its own during our first chat. I mean, we beat this like crazy. And I do want to see a WoW-style story progression. I just don't think we will.
I really liked the Star Wars story progression. I thought it did a perfect example of making you the hero, but still including the rest of the world.
But not the rest of the players so much. But
it did when you were in group.
Elder Scrolls has an issue facing it that neither of those games does have, really, is the fact that it is a first-person single-player console game or PC game, and has been for quite some time, obviously. Like I said, it's got a great fan base. Now they're making it an MMO, so you have to make that mesh. And you make it as reasonable for everybody. Because in a situation like this, you're not, obviously, look at our discussion, you're not going to be able to appease everyone.
No, I don't think, no MMO really appeases anyone. Diablo 3's claimed to be an MMO, and that definitely doesn't please me, but there's thousands of people that like it. World of Warcraft, again, millions of people like it. certain aspects of it that I hate. As much as you guys think I hate that game, I do enjoy that game. I do love the game. I think they did a phenomenal job on it. I just find it boring.
It's because you're boring.
Well, I am. I'm a very boring individual. But let's go back on topic a little bit. We were talking about PvP. We were talking about the guilds and what we kind of want to see, and we kind of went off from talking about guilds, the God Complex. As far as we know from a release, there's only going to be the two guilds, the Fighters Guild and the Mages Guild. Do you guys know anything about those?
They are your core, as far as guilds are concerned. If you're melee, you're fighters. If you're anything but a caster, you're fighters. And then if you're caster, your Mages Guild. Now, the way they were built into the single player, and other than being just story, their main purpose was you couldn't learn the best, like Mage Guild, for example, you couldn't learn the best fireball spell unless you ranked up yourself with the Mages Guild. So it was required to be the best mage to be a big mage in the Mages Guild. And it was a similar thing with the Fighters Guild.
So they continue that into the MMO?
I don't think it'll be that way, no, because I don't think a reputation is going to be able to control players that much for an MMO. I think we'll see them just as a side story with reputation in the MMO.
So you don't foresee the Fighters Guild or Mages Guild being a required aspect to the story?
They were always separate stories, and I think that'll remain the same. I think they will just be separate, and I hope they're separate, personally. So no, I don't think they'll be in the main story at all.
So after, like usually you're saying in Skyrim, you would level your character up, do these side quests, and these side quests would build your character up in specific fields. Like if you're a mage in the Mage Guild, your fireballs and stuff like that would become stronger.
Well, it was mostly like that in Oblivion. In Oblivion, you had to buy your spells. Similar to how you would buy your spells from a trainer in an MMO. You would buy your spells from other mages in Oblivion. But not all mages sold the best spells. And to get access to the best spells, you had to be a certain rank within the Mages Guild.
But they could do that with rep in an MMO fairly easily, I would think.
Yeah, like, I mean, I can definitely see them doing a WoW rep grind. I mean, at Honored, you would get a different one. At Revered, you get a different one. Exalted, you get another one. But that, again, just to talk about what Glenn did before, I mean, that's not what I really want to see as a rep grind. I mean, I don't want to see a progress bar. I want to actually do quests and stuff like that, like feel like I'm actually progressing within the guild. I just don't want to see a number grind.
Well, not only do I not want to see a number grind, I don't want to see a requirement for it. Not that I'm not going to do it, but if I decide to put Mages Guild on hold for doing something else, I don't want my character to be limited. I don't want there to be such limitations on the rep grinds as there are in other games right now.
Maybe
So why do them at all?
Maybe
For the story, for the lore. I mean, that's not why you do them in WoW, but if it actually had good story and lore, you know you'd do it.
Yeah, but there's a ton of people that never read the story.
And maybe if they, experience progression style, something you're doing quests, following your chain, whatever, interacting, you can gain your abilities or what have you that way. Maybe by increasing your reputation at the same time with whatever guild or faction, then you can increase your speed at which you thing. But that's why you join a guild, right? Like you're in with friends to help you and this and that and everything else. So if you increase your reputation doing that, maybe that just gives you a little bit easier or speedier access to those abilities than they might normally be if you just do a straight grind. I don't know, just a thought.
I think something like that would be fine. I'd almost like to see all these rep grinds be, I hate to say taken out of endgame because I know it's a major part of endgame for a lot of these games, but build them into the story while you're actually leveling a little more. But I'm not a developer, so I mean that could really mess up endgame.
I agree with you about the part that the rep grind being problematic. I don't like the rep grinding in WoW, as the rest of us really don't.
I mean, I think we can all agree. I mean, WoW's rep grind is, I don't want to say quote-unquote pointless. I mean, the only reason we do it is to get the specific items that we require from it. But in a lot of the rep grinds, there really isn't much story. There isn't much real reason to just spend your time doing it other than to open up a vendor. But let's kind of talk about what you said about in Oblivion and Skyrim. So how do you think they're going to do it in ESO? If you don't think it's going to be a required aspect of it, you think it's just going to strictly be story related? Do you think it's going to actually progress your character to be a little bit stronger?
Well, I mean, as Greg said, you have to have reasons. So I do think it will add definitely some strength to your character. I just hope it's not so game-changing that it's required. But that's just my hopes. But, I mean, I actually completely lost train of thought there, but I definitely think there will be some change to your character, just hopefully not game-changing.
So you think, not game-changing, but can you join multiple guilds? Like, if I'm a mage, do I have to join the mage guild, or can I join the fighters guild? Because, I mean, the biggest thing that they're promoting about ESO is the fact that anybody can be anything.
Well, the single-player game was anybody can be anybody, but I always put it as the reason they did that was because it's a single-player game. You don't want to limit people from what they can do in a single-player game. I think anybody can still be anybody in online. I don't think they'll change that. They don't interfere with each other too much. But that's mainly talking about mage and fighters. I mean, I think it would almost be interesting if you can't be in the Fighters Guild if you're in the Thieves Guild or something like that, but that's just my opinion.
I think there should be restrictions too. Like, if you're a mage, you're not a fighter, so you can't have access to both. I think there should be some crossover between factions or guilds, but some should be, they're diametrically opposed, right? So you should have access to some and cross, but others are strictly banned based on your choices.
So, in Skyrim, what guilds are there? There's the Mage Guild, the Fighters Guild, that we know is going to be in ESO. Which ones are they holding out on?
Well, I mean, technically in Skyrim it's not the Fighters Guild, it's the Companion Guild, and the Mages Guild is kind of named differently as well. But that's another thing that's interesting, is that they've already said that not only is Fighters Guild coming back, but so is the Companions as well, which is in a sense another Fighters Guild. So maybe we'll see two guilds of the same type that are rivals in a sense.
Or one's a mercenary guild type.
Right. Companions is kind of mercenary, very mercenary. Their big thing, big spoiler here if you haven't played Skyrim, is their big thing is that they're all werewolves.
Oh, cool.
Now, do I have to take that
part of the game? I love it all over again.
Do I have to take that side route of being a werewolf in order to get companion?
Well, at least in Skyrim, it went along with the story. In all of their single-player games, at the end of the story of a guild, you were the leader of the guild. It was never like, okay, you complete the story. It was always, okay, you are now the leader of this group. And with that, you became a werewolf in the Companions, yes.
Okay. That whole side thing kind of intrigues me as well. But when you talk about companions, the only thing I can think of, and again, it's going to be a really horrible example, but is the SOTOR companions. I mean, the completely useless companion. What exactly did they do in Skyrim? Like, what advantage am I looking at when I play ESO?
Well, you're completely different thing. The companion thing in Tessa is completely different than the companion in SOTOR. The Companions Guild itself is a guild. You were able to have companions in Skyrim that would battle with you. You can give them a command, tell them to stay put, make them hold some of your gear. You can take gear from them and stuff like that. They had more functionality in Skyrim than they did in SWTOR. The biggest difference between them, though, would be that there was really the storyline for your companions in Tesso was a little dull, or at least some of them, rather than the storyline. Each companion in SWTOR had its own storyline. Like you might have in Tesso a quick 2-quester storyline for a companion, and then you can just go find them and carry them along with you, and they can hold some of your gear, or you can rob them blind everything that they had in their and whatnot and stuff like that. But I mean, the way that they're designed, it's completely different than it is in SWTOR.
And back what he said in the beginning, when I keep saying companions, I mean the group of people that just call themselves the companions. It's not an actual companion. Yeah, they exist in the game, but that doesn't have any direct relation to the Companions Guild.
So
it's a faction. It's a faction, not a helper monkey.
Exactly.
all right, yeah, that's kind of what I was leaning more towards. Am I going to have this helper monkey that just follows me around and be like, hey, I'm going to help you, help you, help you?
No. I don't know if they're going to do it in Tesso, but in Skyrim, you had the ability to grab somebody and have them follow you around and attack with you and carry your stuff and all that, but it wasn't like in SWTOR.
I love the companions and stuff. With the one exception we've discussed before.
Original Guild Wars, too, had their companions, right? You could hire on the mage when you needed it or whatever else, right? So
I don't remember Guild Wars, unfortunately. I mean, that was one game I played for a few days and I was like, yeah, I'm not into this. Mainly, again, one of the biggest things about that game, I couldn't jump, but that's for a different story. So
Jumping's overrated.
Oh yeah, totally. So it's not like a helper monkey. It's just like a faction kind of thing. So what big advantage? Like I know a lot of people actually talk about this. They actually talk about are the companions going to be in ESO, and they it's a huge topic for people. But why? What advantage am I going to have to this companion in ESO?
Werewolf.
Okay, so they're
Don't you want to be a werewolf?
the companions are your side traits, I guess, your werewolf and your vampire kind of thing, right?
Vampire's different, but companions are the werewolves.
Okay. But when they talk about the companions and stuff, they're talking about the werewolf side of things.
And not only that, I mean, it's a cool story. I mean, these are not just side quests in a single-player game. I mean, they're cool stories. They're cool things that you want to be a part of again, in my opinion, at least. You haven't played it, so you don't know. It's fun.
Yeah, like I said, I'm super stoked about ESO. Like, I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. Again, a lot of the features that they do are groundtaking, and I mean, not many MMOs have done it. Unfortunately, I am not a major Elder Scrolls fan. I mean, I'm not going to say I've played every game because I haven't. I've played Skyrim for maybe 20 hours total, and I completely suck at it. So I'm looking at you guys for a lot of the information between the two and what you guys are expecting to see.
I don't have a ton of information, not as much, anywhere near as much as Glandict or Altiar, simply because I only played Oblivion.
Hey, Oblivion's a very good base, though.
Once I get my new computer, I mean, hopefully Glandict will sit on the stream with me and kind of run me through a couple of things that I need to know about Skyrim. But let's kind of jump completely off topic and just kind of talk about the companions and how the campaigns and how they're going to be run, because the game's going to be on a mega server. You're going to have 1 million to some people playing this game on technically one server, which is essentially a bunch of other servers in the back end, but who cares about that? These campaigns, what are your guys' opinions on the campaigns for PvP? What do you think? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it would be better if we had everybody on the same one?
I hope for a seamless transition between, depending on the area that you're in. I don't think I have enough information to really give an honest opinion, though. I mean, there's a lot to be decided yet. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's a little hard to say as to how they're going to do that. It's going to be real interesting to see, but without a little bit more information as to what it's going to do, I haven't done as much reading into it as you, Kurth, because some of us have a thing called a job. But
You're just jealous.
once I read more on about it, I'll have a definitive answer for you.
I like the idea of a mega server. Everybody's on the same server, what goes on there, as opposed to, again, WoW, with the battle groups and the phase things, and your interaction with other players isn't complete and true.
Like the campaigns, again, it ties very well into the phasing of how your single-player MMO experience is going to partake. Like, I mean, it is a mega server. Everybody is essentially playing on the same server, but everything's phased. I mean, you are in a let's call them clusters. You're in a cluster with a bunch of other people. What do you guys think of that? Do you think that's a good idea? Like, or would you rather actually have servers where people can say, "Hey, I'm on this server" or whatever?
I like the mega server. I think if they pull off what they want to pull off, you're going to have the population and the feeling of the smaller servers, but with the ability to play with any of your friends, which is the benefit of the mega server. The one thing that might be fun, though, is getting the name you want.
Also, major cities are going to be a freaking lag fest. Look at what it's like with the cities on these small servers.
Well, they're mainly going to phase a lot of people out in the main cities. Well, actually, now that you mention that, it's a good question, because for trade, you can't phase everybody out, so what are
And
they
if
going to
they
do there?
phase people out, how are they going to decide who's your friend and who's your not friend for phasing?
Well, I think they're going to have the friend list. So from what I know, from what I've read, the priority for the phasing is guilds. So whoever's in your guild is going to be first on priority, so that you'll be lumped into their phase no matter what. And then after guild comes, I believe, your friend list, and then after that becomes your survey that you take at character creation. And yeah, like
So
what
is
you
that
said
going to be
about
very
the
similar to Guild Wars then, where you're always queuing up to switch all the time, which I found quite annoying?
Guild Wars is a little different compared to what they are trying to roll out with this. And again, I can't say for sure because they've only limited the information they provided. But Guild Wars runs on a overflow system. So you play on one server, but when that server maxes out, you get dumped onto another server, which is overflow. And there is not a seamless transition between the two at all.
No, that was one issue.
Yeah, it was nasty. One of the big things that they're pushing
It wasn't
to
nasty, but it wasn't.
at launch, it was pretty gross. I mean, trying to group up with a couple friends, it was horrible. Because at launch, there was, I think at one time there had to have been close to 5 or 6 different overflow servers. It was horrible, and trying to find out which one they were on.
Question, then. How do you think they're going to be able to do that in the very beginning when everyone's questing together and you've got all these different phases happening?
Well, I can't say for sure. I mean, they've only said that they're going to try for a seamless transition, and the easiest example I can say is think of Mist and Pandaria for World of Warcraft. The seamless transition you have between walking from Half Hill into your farm area and then back. I mean, there is no zoning, there's no nothing. It's a perfect transition. That, I think, is what they're pushing for.
But that's a small instance, right?
Oh, it is. It definitely is. But I think that's the idea they're going to be pushing for, is that seamless, perfect transition. And where I'm questioning the idea is, I don't know if you've ever heard of the 6 degrees of separation, where everybody's only 6 people away from everyone. Who's to say that my friend isn't going to be with me because he's over with another friend, that's on his friend list or in his guild? Who's getting left behind? So the coding before that, I think, is going to be an interesting aspect.
And I think you just said this, what if one person's in a guild and they're both in the same guild, but somebody's on a friend list, and how are you going to group all that up?
Exactly. I think that's where it's going to be interesting to see how they push that out. I think the phasing mega server idea is great. I think it's a phenomenal idea, and if done well, will definitely be the standard for future MMOs, because one of the biggest things is Guild Wars is a great example. I mean, it happened to us. I was on a different server. You were on a different server. Luckily, they had free transfers, but it's a situation that happens way too many times. So the mega server will help.
Well, it's a similar idea to Star Wars, too, where they collapsed them all into, I mean, it started with how many, and it's now collapsed into what?
Exactly. So I think the mega server idea is great. I'm not a big fan of the phasing campaign idea until I read a little bit more. I think it's going to prove to be a lot of issues.
Like I said, I'm not too well informed on how that's going to go, so I'm going to have to wait and see and play it or see it to have a definitive answer.
And I think the developers are going to have to a certain point too. I mean, best laid plans and all. They can do what they want. We try and hopefully they'll get what they want, but we'll see what it's like in functionality within the first month or two, right?
Well,
Yeah.
and you know how impatient players are. If they're facing queues and booting and DCs all the time with this, they're going to lose their player base pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. There's actually a good comment in chat. I don't know if you guys are reading the chat on the stream. He was saying the only time we're really going to run into that 6 degrees of separation is when you're all in the same phase of the world. So I never thought about that. I mean, the chances of everybody in that 6 degrees of separation being in the exact same spot under the exact same quest or exact same mission is probably going to be relatively rare. So yeah, that I think alleviates the 6 degrees of separation. But at launch, at least, I think you'll see a lot of it again, just because there's going to be millions of people playing all at the same time. Where, except for me, because I'll be doing like 3 days straight, so I'll be way ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
That's because you have no life.
And again, you're jealous.
On that note, gentlemen, I'll say good evening. I'm glad I was here tonight.
Later, Hayyt.
Good night.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. Like, I definitely want to see how they're going to push that phasing, because I think it's going to be a great idea. I'm a little hesitant on a few of the things.
It'll be nice when we can stop saying, it's all speculation. We can finally actually comment in the game.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting beta and getting into that and playing. I'm hoping they're going to do a guild-related beta where they'll let a whole guild get into beta and give it a try so we can try all those aspects out and just really go through the ropes with the game so we can understand it better, and then we can do some better feedback and some better live streams and whatnot.
Yeah, I think once betas, or at least closed betas, announced, I mean, there's going to be a huge amount of people flocking to get into that. I really hope at least one of us jumps in and gets in on that. It would be sad if neither of us get in. If they give an option to pay, I'll pay. I'll pay to play. I don't care. Like, I'll pay to jump into the beta. Like, Path of Exile did that, and I think that's a great idea.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Definitely. But I think we covered every topic. I mean, was there any other topic did you guys want to talk about?
I'm good for tonight.
Yeah, like, I mean, we talked about targeting. That was a pretty good discussion. What do you guys want to talk about next week? One thing I thought about for next week is ZeniMax releases a question of the week. Did you guys want to touch base on that?
What was the question of the week for this week? We can touch base on that now. And there was a message in the chat saying that they're looking into doing a guild beta. If they do that, that would be awesome. We can get some of our officers into the guild beta and give it a shot, and that would be great. I'd love to do that. But what was the topic this week that they touched base on?
I honestly don't remember. I think it was favorite zone. They're very basic questions.
Favorite zone?
Yeah, like the favorite area. I can't remember, to be honest with you. They're very basic and very general questions. I really think the reason behind them is so they can get viewers' feedback and make sure they're kind of providing the most common answers in the game, so they see what they want to see. Because the one before it was favorite mob that you wanted to see, that you enjoyed playing against. So I think, again, that was so they can incorporate that into ESO. that comment. I really hope they do guild bait. That would just be awesome. Another thing that, again, it's off topic compared to what everything else we were talking about. I think Star Wars did a phenomenal idea, but they didn't continue with it, was the Guild Summit. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, but the game's not even a year old yet, so they might do the Guild Summit again. But at the same time, the game has lost a lot of followers because the BioWare is just so inexperienced with managing an MMO. They can't keep up with all the bugs and all the broken shit. So, I mean, they might be able to get another Guild Summit going. I mean, they're still releasing content patches and stuff like that. They just released one this week, new PvP battlegrounds and whatnot. So I see them doing another one if they have enough followers to have people show up. I mean, shit, I'm still playing it. I would go to it or at least participate in it via webcast if possible.
Yeah, like I was supposed to go to the SOTOR Guild Summit, but I mean they gave me like a week and a half notice, and I was like, I can't go all the way down to Texas in a week and a half. But the reason I brought it up is I would love to see ZeniMax do something for the guilds. Like, I mean, I've never seen another company that does like a guild summit. I mean, just for guild officers and leaders, I think that's a huge perk for guilds.
Speaking of which, let's touch on actual guilds and TESO for a second. I don't think we discussed that very much. What would you like to see TESO incorporate into the guilds and stuff like that? Like, I liked the idea of the guild leveling system in WoW, but I also liked like in SOTOR they had that per person legacy. I think there should be some type of maybe similar thing guild related where you level up as a guild and you get certain perks through the legacy system that you can't get through actually leveling up the guild. Like, say, okay, after so much legacy, you can unlock a mailbox for everybody in for everybody, or whatever the hell the case may be, or special features through a legacy system or something like that would work to increase your guild, and have them import something that makes having a guild not a guild of players like us, rather than the Thieves Guild, Dark Brotherhood, etc., but have a meaning to have those guilds rather than us just getting together and talking and shit like that. What would you want to see?
Glandic, did you want to jump on that first?
Well, I like that aspect as far as how it's been put into other games. WoW, for example, it's a very basic one in WoW, but I do really like that, and I would like to see guild progression in some sort.
Actually, I really liked some of the stuff they did with guilds in Guild Wars 2, where you got points for people completing stuff and recruiting people into the guild, and you use them to like upgrade your politics or
yeah, like the influence
I really
system.
Like that aspect. Yeah, I really like that aspect, and I think they should incorporate something like that into the game. That I think would be really, really interesting, because that gives you, not only does that give you the incentive to recruit people, it also gives people the incentive to stay loyal to that guild, because as you grow with that guild, you get stronger, you unlock certain things, certain vanity stuff, and things like that. So that gives people the reason to stay and not guild hop like you see so many people doing, because, oh, this guild's starting to suck, let's go jump into the top guild now or try to get in with them.
Yeah, like I think you hit the nail on the head right there with the guild pride. I mean, if you have let's use WoW as an example. I mean, when the first guild hit guild level 25 and having that mount, I mean, you would see the people on that mount running by and be like, oh, I want that mount, and you would work hard to get that mount for the guild, doing quests and stuff like that. And then Guild Wars came out with the influence system. And again, it's a very similar system. I mean, it's guild currency. It's how you get your guild perks. I definitely want to see some form of guild leveling within ESO. It doesn't really tie into the lore per se, because I mean it's just a random collection of people. But I definitely would love to see a guild perk system. As to the guild itself, a lot of the features I want to see as a leader and officer, they've already mentioned. I mean, a lot of them are very simple ones. Cloaks are a big one. Having your guild emblem on a cloak is probably one of my biggest awesomeness, biggest perks to any game. I mean, Dark Age of Camelot had it, and now Rift has it. They just put it in the newest expansion. Shields, having your emblem on your shield. There's nothing better than being a warrior or some form of tank running around with a huge guild crest on your shield. I mean, that's just guild pride. It's guild advertising. It's just guild everything.
That's what a guild's supposed to be.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And
I
agree
mean,
with that.
if you look back at history, that's what it was. I mean, you look back at Camelot. They had the dragon. That was the sign of Camelot, right? It was the sign of that city. So having that as your guild, I think, is a really big perk.
Yeah, I hope they do a lot with the guild pride and increasing stuff for your guild and things like that. Me personally, like, let's take our Star Wars guild, for example. Did a lot of stuff to promote our guild, videos, live streams, coming back with answering all the dev questions of the week when they were doing their stuff in SOTOR and stuff like that. But not only just that, but incorporating stuff into the game. We spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, and between you and me, Kurt, a lot of sleepless nights doing shit for the guild and our community as a whole. And I think there should be something rather than just all of us getting together that rewards us for doing that time, grinding that rep and stuff like that. And some of the guilds that are incorporating that with the guild pride, I really enjoy it. It adds that sense of realism.
Sorry, I was just reading the chat. He was saying, to be honest, rich and persistent PvP campaign that develops rivalry, alliances, etc. does a whole lot for guild pride. And I mean, again, he's hit the nail on the head there. For anybody that's really big into PvP, or I think I'm the only one here that's played Dark Age. I used to run a solid 8-man, and I mean, we were known in RVR. Like, people would spy in our realm to find out if we were on, and if they found out we were on, they would probably either log off or try and stay away from us. Mainly, again, we were just an 8-man. We were just so persistent in doing what we did. I'm not saying we were like number one. We were just persistent. We had a name behind us. So, and again, we had so many people want to join my guild specifically because they knew who we were. Not that we were number one. We were just persistent. So, and again, I just think I'm a huge advocate for guild presence and guild name, and I think a name means everything. And to answer your question, I played on Midgard Boars and I played on Izulet Alb. In ESO, they did say that we are getting guild banners, which is, again, a really cool aspect. Guild Wars 2 has that, so when you claim a keep. And I think one of the biggest things is the developer behind ESO is the developer behind Dark Age of Camelot, and I'm sure you all know I'm a huge DOC fanboy. I mean, I have shirts and I have every game. It's just, yeah, I'm a huge fanboy, so having the main developer of that game being the developer of ESO, I think it's my wet dream. Anything else about the guilds that you think, Claire?
Well, me personally, I think we touched base on everything I want to see as far as guilds are concerned. Like you said, and people in the chat said, I'm real big on guild pride, showing off our guild and the stuff we've done, the stuff we've progressed through, and showing off that we're an awesome guild and building alliances with other guilds and forming all that stuff. I'm really, really big into that, and it seems like Tessa wants to do that, so I'm all for it. So I don't have much more to touch base on as far as guilds are concerned tonight.
Yeah, you guys said a lot of the stuff that I feel. I really didn't have much else to say. You spoke for me.
So for next week, what do you guys think we should touch base on? I mean, in the previous discussion, we've covered. What have we covered? We've covered targeting, we've covered PvP, we've covered PvE, we've covered guilds now. We've covered the mega servers. So what do you guys think we should try and touch base on next week?
I'm not exactly sure. One thing we should probably do is on our Twitter page, Facebook pages, and whatnot. We should throw that question out to the people who watch us and ask them what they want us to discuss, and maybe even give them the option to join in into our conversations. See what
Yes.
they want to touch base in.
Well, I was actually thinking about that today. I thought about what I'm probably going to do is on my Twitch page, I might incorporate our Mumble info, and if anybody wants to participate in these discussions every Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, definitely to jump on. I mean, it's a public server. Obviously, we have some rules. If you don't follow them, we will ban you.
Yeah, I'll throw up a link on the site or something. I'll throw a thing on the site to see what people want to discuss and stuff like that, and I'll post the site link on my Facebook page, Twitter page, and whatnot. Also, I think we should open up the Clearing Call Facebook Guild group, open it up to the public so people can see what we're doing there, because right now it's currently a closed group, or maybe create an open group one for people to be able to follow us on Facebook if they don't have a Twitter or Twitch page or whatever.
I'm not fond of being open to the public.
Well, then we should create a public one that we use just to post updates and stuff like that as to what the guild's doing, but still keep the other one private for actual members.
Yeah, we can do just a Clearing Call, either Clearing Call Facebook group, and then just do our updates there. I have my own Twitter where I post our updates. Our CC Guild website, ccguild.ca, is 100% open to everybody except for the guild section. Even the guild section is readable by everybody. Only members can post. The general section is open to everybody. Everything else is open to everybody except for the officer and, like I said, the guild section. It's read only.
So yeah, I'll get some stuff posted up tonight. See what people want to touch base on. I'll do some more research into the game, see what else we can touch base on. I mean, really, we've touched base on just about everything in the past couple weeks that Tesso has given us info on. We've touched on pay-to-play versus free-to-play, campaigns, PvP, guilds, faction guilds, and stuff
Pretty
like
much
that.
everything that's been released so far, yeah.
Yeah, we've touched base on it all, so I think we should leave it up to our followers to see what they want us to touch base on, and we'll touch base on that, and even let them join in if they want.
Definitely. I'll make a post on the Temerald Foundry. That's a great website. Trying to get some input into what we can discuss about next week. Hopefully, they release a little bit more information on the Aldemary Dominion, because I think that was part one. I think it's a two-part Ask Us Anything. So hopefully we can get the second part of that. And maybe just any new information, because right now we're dry on information. We need some more.
Time for the devs to open up Pandora's box a little bit.
Agreed.
Also, I think we should do more than just in these live streams. Maybe do more than just Tesso. Touch base on a couple different games, the gaming community as a whole. Maybe the other games that will be coming out, other games that us as a guild, as a community, are playing and stuff like that, and really incorporate it as a. Since we do it weekly, there's not always going to be enough information each week to touch base on just one game. So maybe we can touch base on, say, next week we'll touch base on WoW or SOTOR or Guild Wars or Diablo or whatever the hell.
Yeah, if there's no information, we can definitely do that. With the very little information we get each week, we seem to make an hour and a half, 2 hour long discussions, which are great. I was going to say something I can't remember.
Kind of like that one night you and me did a 3.5 hour long SOTOR conversation.
Yeah, that was a very long one, but it was good. We had some really good information. I really wish I could remember what I was going to say. It was good. I swear to you. It was good.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we'll post that stuff up. Check us out, ccguild.ca. there'll be a post somewhere in regards to joining in next weekend, Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll also have something up, the Twitter pages, Altiar _ CCGC or Garbrac's curse. I don't know his off the bat. Check out our Twitter pages and stuff like that, and you can get some information. And we'll be here Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love these discussions. I think we provide some great information here. I really wish I could think of what I was going to say. I'm telling you, it was going to be good. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Just to everybody that is here currently watching the video, we will be doing a future contest. I believe they equal out to about $100 worth of value, the prizes. So definitely keep coming back and watching them. I'll try to release some more information it's going to be. More than likely, it'll be something really easy, and the prize will be rewarded to either a YouTube follower or a Twitch follower, preferably probably a YouTube follower. But the details have not been ironed out, but we will be holding a contest. And I believe next week I will be giving away some Humble Bundles. So if you guys are definitely into some more gaming, we'll be giving away some Humble Bundle packages. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming out. Thank you, Glandict. Thank you, Altiar. I mean, we had some great discussions this week. So
Yeah, and our YouTube page is Clearing Call TV. Just in case you want to check that out, we have some videos on there of WoW and some of our earlier discussions that weren't live streamed that you want to check out, or some SOTOR videos and stuff on there as well. And we do post random stupid stuff on there too, like Kurth raging on about some of the stuff that happened in SOTOR about a year back.
Angry Wampa. I don't know what I'm going to call myself for the random ESO rants, but I mean, who knows? Maybe there won't be any. Maybe ESO will just be perfect.
Yeah.
All right, but I'm gonna. So that's about it. I mean, like I said, like Altair said, definitely to everyone that's watching right now, hit us up next week. We'll open up our Mumble server so everybody can just jump in and join. I think next week what I'll do is I'll actually make this open section on our stream, the Mumble server, so we can see who's talking. But again, thanks everybody for coming out.